March 31st, 2022. Looks like we got David Copperfield over here. I love it. All right. Let's see if he appears and vanishes. Let's go.
I'm Anthony. Welcome to No Vacancy Live. That's my friend Glenn.
You're watching the #1 show in hospitality.
Hey, everybody. Welcome. That's Anthony Melchiori. I'm Glenn Hausman. This is No Vacancy Live for March 31st, 2022. Last day of Women's Leadership Month, or I don't know what they're calling it. I get confused.
April is Men's Leadership Month.
I doubt that.
April Fools.
Yeah, reminds me of having Children's Day when I was a kid. No such thing.
I wish I was the guy that can come up with good April Fool's jokes and know. I'm just not that guy.
No, I can't stand April's Fool thing, and quite frankly, I'm too gullible. I seem to.
Yeah, I was gonna say maybe I'll do one tomorrow to you.
But I'm also the guy on Ash Wednesday that gets confused when I see somebody. I always like the first few people I see. I'm like, oh yeah, that's a religious thing. I always get confused. But what are you going to do? That's just me. I confuse easily. We all know that you don't. Anthony, again, I'm having a really good week, I think. We have so many great interviews this week, and I'm really feeling over the last couple of few weeks a very palpable, positive energy kind of infecting the hospitality industry. How are you feeling about it?
I just think that it's yes. The answer is yes. I feel that, but I also feel that you've had a couple of good wins recently, and I think that always helps people's moods when business-wise things kind of turn out the way you hope they do.
Yeah, I agree with you. All right, maybe we should get right into it today. What do you think?
Yeah, but I think the win in the hotel business is I've never felt stronger good wins in ever.
Yeah, it feels like there's so much just positive energy, and one person helping a lot of great women out there find positive energy is Emily Goldfisher. She, of course, is the founder, editor-in-chief at Hertelier. But Emily, before we get into that, I feel like we've kind of had like similar careers. We've both done editorial, me with Hotel Business, Hotel Interactive. Now this, you with like QuestX. I've done a little PR. You did PR. You worked with Lowe's. So it's interesting how we've kind of both gone back and forth in our careers with the editorial side and the helping people out with public relations side.
Yeah, we're basically like separated at birth. I'm thinking like are we twins?
I know. Definitely separated. Anthony, we were just talking before we went on air. The last time we saw each other, I think was before the millennium.
Yeah, it could have been.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I did start in public relations. I worked on the agency side. I had clients like Hyatt Hotels and Resorts. And then I moved to Lowe's Hotels to be the in-house leading up all their public relations and communications. And I did that for 10 years in New York City. And that, well, I know you both probably know John Tisch. And he was an amazing, inspiring person to work for.
I've been trying to schedule an interview with him. We're going on 6 years now, but
is that right?
I'm told it'll happen anytime soon.
Listen, I know a lot of great leaders in this industry, and if there's a better one than him, I really don't know. I mean, he's at the very top of the list. How long ago did you leave there?
Amazingly, we've been in London 11 years. So I left in 2010.
Oh, so you didn't work with David Weiblich?
I did not. That does not ring a bell.
David's there now, but he's amazing. I remember him speaking at a NYC when he was president, right? He was president of the NYC.
Yeah, he chairman, I think, of NYC and Co. for many years. He led the New York Rising after 9/11.
I remember hearing him speak when I was younger, and I remember sitting in that room going, I could do a decent job speaking, but I will never be this man. This man is extraordinary.
He is a great public speaker, and I will say it's something he enjoys and he worked at. He's definitely, he's really a captivating speaker.
That's cool. Emily, I'm sorry, but I have to say something really quick before we get into it. I totally forgot. I got to talk about our good friends over at ideas.com. They do revenue management. Y'all should check them out. They've been in the business over 30 years out there, making great choices based on data and analytics. It's so far ahead of the competition. Please check out Ideas, a SaaS company, at ideas.com. Sorry about that.
You know what? The reason I'm laughing is I was just on a meeting with, I may be doing a speech for the government of North Dakota. And I said, when I was in the Air Force, I was out in North Dakota. I used to go there a lot. And I said y'all all the time. So I haven't heard somebody say y'all from the East Coast in a long time, Glenn.
I started saying y'all when I went to the University of Maryland. I'd be like, hey, what's up, y'all?
Well, what's up, y'all is kind of like you're two
bringing a little New York with the DC kind of attitude and stuff over there. But Emily, you're running a Hertelier. You founded it. I love it. It's all about it. It's an online news platform, aims to help women in hospitality pursue, navigate, and nurture their careers no matter what stage of the business they're in. I love it. What made you start it? And tell us that story, if you don't mind.
Yeah, it's interesting because you mentioned that I write for QuestX, which I still do, and I've been covering luxury travel for them, mainly in London, which of course we moved here right before the Olympics, and there's just tons going on in London, and so I was noticing though that there were more women getting into leadership positions, and that was very interesting because of course having come from Lowe's actually always had quite a few women in top jobs.
Always.
But that was unusual for the industry. As you all know, you go to conferences and it's a lot of dudes. So it's changing. It's changing. There's still a lot of work to be done, but I'm sure you are familiar with the Castell project. Are you familiar with the Castell? Okay.
Yeah. Don't worry. Peggy Berg is going to be joining us again in just a couple of weeks to talk about how they're going to be partnering with the AHLA on some of the things that they're dealing with over at the Castell project, another program designed to help female.
Didn't you exclusively announce that on your?
Yeah, we did cover that this week. That's an exciting merger. So that's a big step, actually, that AHLA and Castell project have merged to really help develop women. Their careers, leadership, and also starting all the way at the university level. So, and even before in high school, possibly. So it's really exciting to see the developments that are being made to help women grow and develop. And basically, you asked me why did I start Hertelier, and I realized that there were these different things happening, but there wasn't a central place where I, as a woman working in hospitality, could go and find all the news and information. And so I thought during the pandemic, when things slowed down a bit, I was like, you know what, I'm just going to try this. I'm going to try it. I talked to, of course, working in PR for so many years. And then as a journalist, I had a lot of contacts in the business and just talked to a few of my friends and connections and said, what do you think of this? And everybody was like, yeah, that sounds like an interesting idea. And that was it. So I tried it, I started it, and then it just took off. Like people were into it.
Yeah, it's just an incredible name, and I just love people that get things right. Like the name is just perfect. And I was at an IHG conference the other day, Tuesday, speaking in Boston, and I looked out at the audience. Maybe there's 500 people in the audience, a couple hundred people. I'm not really sure. And I would say I'd say 25%, maybe more, were women. And I actually acknowledged it. And there were minorities. And I was just like, wow, I really see it at IHG. There's a change. I really look out and I'm looking at me. I'm looking at Glenn. And Glenn's not fun to look at.
No.
And, it was great to see the diversity. And listen, anytime I've run a company, it seems like I turn around 6 weeks after I'm there and everybody I hired happens to be female. And I don't do it on purpose. I always say, my favorite saying is, not to put that men, but men always they do something, they hold the trophy and go, look at me. Women just don't want to be disrespected. They do the work. They want acknowledgement, but they're too busy onto the next project to receive the acknowledgement.
It totally reminds me, Anthony, on Sunday, I had a slow leak in my tire and I went to the place and I got it fixed. And then I walked around. I did something. Hey, oh, no joke.
No, I understand the feeling. But my wife comes home from work. She's a teacher. She does everything. And I was like, I had meetings and I did a talk, and I'm going to go lay down now.
That is so true. But Emily, I just came back from the Hunter Hotel Investment Conference, and looking back on that, and Alice, and then a lodging conference last fall, there are definitely more women there in amazing positions. And it's really nice to see. It used to be like 10 years ago, and we all know this name, it would be like Alice, it would be all men and Mary Beth Cutchall, for example, right? She was like one prominent development female executive. But now I'm seeing so many more women getting involved in this. How much today is women choosing that maybe they should go down this career paths versus people now just hiring more women that are actually interested in it, if that question makes sense? Because
that's a good question.
Or design and those sorts of things, not necessarily the hardcore finance side of the business.
Yeah. That's a great question. Yeah. And I think it comes down to this idea that representation really matters. So like there's probably a generation of women who saw Mary Beth and were like, okay, well, that's a possibility. So they're you had these Mary Beths that were like, whatever, 20 years ago, and now there's the women that are following her and they see her example, and people like Peggy. And then I think what's actually very interesting about the development space, and I know you guys do a lot of work there, is the efforts like She Has a Deal with Tracy Prigmore. And then I know you've had Devon Reeves on your show.
I saw Devon last week at Hunter. So she's excited. She's coming back here again soon. My goodness, she's got the best energy.
Yeah, I mean, those women are incredible, and they're showing, they're kind of paving the way for other women behind them. And then I think the amazing thing about women too is that they want to share. They're super open, and they want to lift as they climb. They as women move their way up the ladder, they want to help other women behind them. And I think that's, we're seeing the effects of that.
Right.
So let me ask you, since you started this, what's the one comment that you received, either in a DM or for somebody, that really made you happy or surprised you or shocked you? Anything stand out?
You know what? I can't say that it's one comment, but what I would say is that the engagement on LinkedIn for the stories, when we do these long format profiles of women and their careers, people really love those. They spend time reading. I mean, of course, with the internet, you can see how long people spend reading things. And I would say that there's just a lot of curiosity. People are nosy. I don't know, but that really resonates. I think these long form interviews. And it's actually been really gratifying for me to shine the light on women who maybe previously wouldn't have been in the spotlight. And also is like, look, I love the trades. I write for trades. But it's, in March. And March is when they cover women. So I feel like this is nice because it's like, it's always Women's History Month at Hertelier.
What percentage of women or men are reading those articles?
Amazingly, 40% of our readership is men. That actually really surprised me. But again, I think it's this natural curiosity. And I think, like you and Glenn, guys are really interested in being great allies to women. They realize that women offer a different perspective. And, it's not me, it's the research from McKinsey, which I'm sure you've heard that study, that it says companies that have over 30% women in management are actually more profitable. So, I think it's the same thing that you have with having minorities and having this diverse workplace.
Right.
It just makes companies better.
Someone said, I'll tell you, Morgan Freeman said a long time ago to Mike Wallace, he said, "What do you think of Black History Month?" And Morgan Freeman said, "I don't want Black History Month." He goes, "Why?" I said, "Because every month is Black History Month." He goes, "Do you want Jewish History Month?" And he goes, "No." He goes, "Well, I don't want Black History Month." Like, same thing with women. Now, some people will disagree with that, but my point being is, when are we just going to say we're all the same and we're all like, yeah, we're all same and all different? Like me and Glenn, we're both men, but we're so different in so many ways. Okay, you're a female, I'm a male. We're different. So if you were a male, we'd still be different. So like we all bring something to the table. The reason I really enjoy working with women executives is because they listen. They listen, then they speak. A lot of men just wait for you to stop speaking so they can speak. And a lot of times they don't stop and they interrupt you.
Yeah,
So,
I would like to talk right now if you don't mind.
so I just think it's about time. Like that I had to look at IH when I looked at IHG and I saw the diversity and I saw it was amazing. But like that I actually noticed it was shameful that it's taken this long.
You know, I think there's a lot of work still to be done, but it's great that, like you were saying at the beginning of the show, that the industry, there's good energy happening in the industry, and hopefully change is afoot.
Right.
Or hand.
Or hand, right?
That was such a Glenn joke, Glenn.
I know.
I've been hanging out with you for too long.
It took me a little while to process how bad that was.
Do you see a conference in your future around what you're building?
That's a great idea. I'm just going with the flow in terms of what I'm just trying to figure out. I mean, the amazing thing about the internet is you can literally tell exactly what works and what doesn't. I mean, you guys know this from your podcasts and all the things that you do. So yeah, but definitely the community has come around. The idea of a conference could be amazing. Or just like, to support what Peggy's doing and trying to get more women involved in the conferences that already exist. I think that's also a great thing.
Right. One of the things that I see, for example, HOA has like a women's conference as part of it. I do think there's more opportunity to do some of that sort of stuff, but I would also like to see more men being able to participate in women's conferences and stuff like that. Not necessarily on stage, but in the audience, so we could all learn together. And in that spirit of learning, what is it that you've learned that you didn't realize about the challenges many women face achieving positions in the executive suite in the hospitality industry?
That's a really interesting question. I think it's the things that you read about in many industries, actually. Yeah. I do think that hospitality, along with finance and some others, that we're a bit behind some other industries, like maybe the legal professions. But it's just this idea that people tend to promote people that look like them. I mean, I think there's been studies like that. So in terms of seeing women move ahead, I think that there has to be a concerted effort, as there does seem to be now. And so when I talk to women, like I remember when I interviewed Hilda Perez Alvarado from JLL, she said that at JLL, they really worked with her in terms of, training her leadership skills, also mentoring and coaching her. So I think that companies that take the time to really develop their leaders, to look at women, develop the skills that you said that women sometimes maybe more naturally possess, the ability to listen, a more empathetic leadership. I mean, that's something that really is on all the business pages now, is that this idea of empathetic leadership is very important and has been really tested and shown during the crisis of the pandemic.
If you can share a moment in your career, probably early on, when you walked into a room full of men, and what did that make you feel like? And what did you do or not do, or did it make you feel anything?
That's an interesting question. I mean, being on the communication side, and part of the marketing team at Lowe's, it was headed by Charlotte St. Martin, who is still heading up the Broadway organization in New York. I can't say that within Lowe's I ever had to walk into a room that didn't have at least another woman in there. But I had been to conferences and things where there were not many women, and it is a bit awkward. You just feel like, what am I right now? Am I an executive? Am I trying to be girly? Like, I think that's the kind of things that women think, whether it's, unconsciously or not. What is my role right now? Who am I meant to be? And I think that when there's other women there, it just automatically makes you feel more comfortable, if that makes sense.
No, it totally makes sense. The only thing I could relate to that is when I was in college, I was an intern at WPGC Radio, 95.5, not 50,000 watts of power. And I was the only white guy there most of the time. Right.
Oh, really?
So it was interesting for me growing up as a white Jewish kid on Long Island, where I didn't feel any sense of being a minority, to actually step into a situation and get a different point of view. And I stayed there for about a year. I thought it was very eye-opening and awakening. But I think because I'm a white guy, I didn't feel any sense of awkwardness or odd or not feeling.
Did they bring you in, or did they push you out?
I don't think I was brought in, but I wasn't pushed out either. Right. I left at the end.
You were tolerated.
I guess I was tolerated for sure, but it was really super interesting. And then I was able to take that experience I had, and I worked in the hip hop industry, working with a music video editor, and I also had a similar experience. And I'm glad that I had those experiences for me, because it opened my eyes up. But when it comes to being a woman alone with a sea of men, for example, it must be very different. Sometimes awkward, sometimes not really bothering you at all, depending on who those people are, I would guess, right?
Yeah, it's interesting because I think back to the interview I did with Valerie Ferguson, who was the first Black female general. I think actually she was one of the first Black general managers, full stop, for Hyatt back in the 80s. And, she said often she was the only person in the room that looked like she did.
Yeah. And now she's director of lodging, I believe, at Walt Disney Parks and Resorts.
Yeah.
Right?
She's a great interview, by the way.
Yeah.
If you do need her on.
Could you connect us?
Yes, of course I can.
Thank you.
But yeah, Val's amazing. And she talked openly in our interview, and it's a great one to read, about the challenges that she faced being not only the only woman, but also to be Black, and some of the instances where she would be discriminated against because of the color of her skin. And so she would let her bosses know, like, look, I'm running this hotel and everything's good, but just be aware that on top of having all the pressure of running a hotel, that also I have these added pressures because people treat me this way because I'm Black. So I think there's definitely a lot.
How did she overcome that? What did she do to mitigate that?
She just kept on. She just didn't back down and just kind of was like, this is who I am. This is what I need to achieve. And she said ultimately in the various communities, people accepted her. Yeah. And she actually said in the interview that she's still very good friends with people that she made in those communities where actually she had the most resistance. So I think it's just sometimes things take time, but I think you also have to. She actually used the quote from Shirley Chisholm. She said, if there's no seat for you at the table, pull up a folding chair. So I think she has that attitude of getting it done.
I have a question, Glenn.
Yeah. You can ask me anything you'd like, Anthony.
Okay. One of the things that were in the last couple of weeks during Women's Month that comes up a lot, and I'd like to get your perspective, is especially young women, they say they're sorry a lot. Just like one of my daughters says she's sorry for everything. And I'm like, why are you saying you're sorry? It's not your responsibility. Do you notice that? And if you do notice that, what do? Do you talk to the person? Do you say, hey, why are you saying you're sorry? Have you experienced that?
Me personally, I can say that's something that often gets talked about, that women will say their story, and it's actually, I think we've done a few social media posts about that, but it's like, instead of saying sorry, you should say thank you for understanding that whatever you were going to apologize for. So let's say I didn't get back to you the day or time I said I would. Thank you for understanding that I was busy.
But a
And
lot of
actually,
times, sometimes women just say, I'm sorry for no reason.
You know what? I live in England. They say sorry. People here apologize like for anything. I don't even know. I think it's a cultural thing, actually. British people just apologize like
It's that deep-seated guilt from all that colonialism.
I was gonna
I
say.
don't know. I don't know. But so actually, I think the sorry thing, I don't know if that's it could be gender, but I also think it
Right.
might be cultural as well.
Yeah.
English people say sorry all the time.
That's pretty funny.
They do say that in emails. Okay, so maybe not necessarily in speaking, but in emails, that there are ways that women phrase things that actually men do not, and men do not apologize. They don't use exclamation points as much, things like that.
I do.
That actually, as the world is more about writing, texting, emailing, it's interesting to see how that is all changing.
Yeah. Emily,
I have a female in my life who's my partner, Jeremy Pinkerton, and she just said sorry because she texted me in the middle of my podcast that she knows I do every day at 12 o'clock. So I said, I'm in the middle of
all right.
Yes, I do.
That's all right, David. Producer Davis texting me too.
Anyway.
Emily, are you jealous that there's a show called Emily in Paris and not one based on you living in London?
Yes, I am. And now that you mention it, I think that would be a great idea.
I think so. Being over there,
can I play myself? Can I play myself?
I would think so. I mean, Lily Collins is busy already. By the way, speaking about the Collins family, you didn't have to get to see the last Genesis concert over there a couple of last week, did you?
I did not. I did not.
Yeah,
it's his last concert, right?
Yeah, Genesis wrapped up last week. Peter Gabriel was in the audience, so that was exciting.
The Rolling Stones are coming to Hyde Park this summer.
That's crazy.
What is it, like the 70? Like, how? I don't even know what anniversary
He's
tour this could be.
He's 78 years old.
Is that it?
Yeah.
It's amazing. I just saw. I know this has nothing to do with what we're talking about, but now we're talking about old guys that are in shape. William Shatner in his 90s is looking amazing.
William Shatner?
Yeah, dude. He looks like he's 60. Yeah.
Really? Because I thought he was falling apart on the Priceline commercials. I got to go look at him.
He's looking.
He went up to space.
Yes, he did. He was on Blue Origin or the Jeff Bezos.
Oh yeah.
But Emily.
Yes.
So back to helping empower women hoteliers. Are you finding it's easier for women at the beginning of their career now to achieve stuff that maybe they're not getting as much scrutiny, that perhaps they are being treated more as equals in the the general hospitality industry, or are we still where we were 10, 15 years ago?
That's a really interesting question. I do think, look, if you look at the hotel programs at the colleges, actually, I think there's more women in them now than men.
There's more women in college in general.
Yeah. So that's all gonna, trickle upwards. So I do think that there's equal opportunity now for women. And I think that it's going to keep going, and particularly now that you have a lot of momentum with these different organizations. So like the Castell Project, there's Women in Travel Thrive, there's, Women Leading Hospitality and Travel, that are all organized around helping women with mentorship and growing the skills that they need to keep moving up the ladder. The challenge that I think that women face isn't actually at the entry level. It's when they start to be in their child rearing years. And we just did a Zoom roundtable, which I'm about to publish next week. And this is where it gets really hard for women.
Yes.
Because I think it was before the show when we were chatting, or maybe it was on the show where you said, "Oh, I come home from working and then my wife is getting dinner ready or whatever." And maybe that's not particular to you and your family, but a lot of these women who I spoke with last week, they said that still the majority of all the household administration and then dealing with managing children falls on the shoulders of women. So on top of having a full career, you get home and and this is what they call the second shift. So you have, again, all the management of the household, and I think that's actually where you lose women. And in fact, that's kind of what happened to me. I mean, we moved here for my husband's job,
Right.
and then instead of, having just moved to another country and everything to try and get into a very intense, corporate situation like I had been with at Lowe's,
Yeah.
although Lowe's was amazing, for me as a mother with young children, an incredible place to work. That I would just do something that was a bit more part-time so that my husband could, do his banking job. So I think that's the challenge that women face, is not at the entry level, but it's when you get
Right.
into the child rearing years.
Uh,
And I'm not sure if you're familiar, but there is a new book, sorry, that has just come out, and it's called
Mhm.
Pay Up, and it's by this woman who she did this organization called Girls Who Code, and she's
Right.
talking about the fact that there needs to be systemic change when it comes to helping women in the and childcare, and that companies need to step up and start offering childcare, and also the governments need to help as well, and to subsidize that so that women can stay in the workforce.
And do you think that leads me to the question I was actually going to ask you? Is with now that everybody's getting used to flex time, that we can work from home and be successful, do you think that that will help women in the workforce and help them still get promoted? Because back in the day, men or women, you can't work from home because you can't get anything done at home. So,
Yeah.
like, I work a lot of hours at home, but you don't know that in the middle of the day I go to lunch with my friends, or I go to the gym, and I just choose to work later at night or earlier in the morning. So do you think that that will have a big impact as well?
Anthony, I think a couple things with that is basically, yes, now, that when, that there is more flexibility, I think that could help. I think the bigger thing in terms of the hotel industry is, if you think about women or anyone who works in operations like yourself, in order to keep moving up the ladder, you have to move in
Right.
a lot of instances. So, like, actually, one of the other people that I interviewed, my first interview was with Abby Murtagh. I think she's the general manager now at the Arizona Biltmore, but she's had to move 9 different times. And her husband is basically the one who's in charge of the household, and he's a little bit older than her, and she
Mhm.
has 2 children. But that's how it's been able to work, is that there was that he would had the flexibility to move. So what I would say is that in terms of the technology, is that now if you have a partner who does something and potentially could work remotely, it would allow the woman to be able to move for her job. And I think that's how that may play out beneficially for women in the hotel industry, is that your partner might have more flexibility to work
Yeah,
from home.
but there are also a lot of jobs in the hotel business, like sales, revenue management, accounting, PR, marketing, that you can
Mhm.
do from home. And a lot of people are doing from home, and they're demanding to do from home, or they're going to walk. And there's a lot of talent, that walks if they don't have that flexibility. I just had a friend had to hire a lawyer right out of college for more money than he wanted to spend, and let him work from home 2 days a week, because if not, the person behind him was going to ask for the same thing. So I think that, yes, I agree with everything you just said, and also I think people will be more understanding. But whether you're a man or a woman, if you have to work the front desk, as a general manager, I think you can work from home 1 or 2 days a week if you're a good general manager. I think you can, but that's just my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, interestingly, on this call that I did last week, it was the general manager here from the Nomad in London,
Right.
and she was saying that she told her bosses up front. She said, "Look, a couple nights a week, I have to be home to put my kids to bed and have dinner with them." And she said that's not negotiable. And she said they kind of laughed at a little bit, but that that she's done that, and then that has really been quite grounding for her, that she was able to do that. So I think, again, it's like people want you to be successful. They want you to have that work-life balance. And I think the initial reaction, if it's something new or different, is maybe like a little bit of that nervous laughter, but not, but then once they see it work, it can work. But I still think that, whether it's just these kind of additional pressures that women face, running a household with children, that is the biggest challenge that women have to face, and it coincides with the years in your career where you have the greatest trajectory. So I think it's companies really working on that time in a woman's life where, she's got the most potential in her career, but she also might have small children at home. And
it's, if someone is saying, I can, like this young lady who you're talking about, who I think I know you're talking about. I met her at a conference once for 5 minutes, and I was blown away by her. I can't remember her name. I can't remember. She's a little taller.
Kate.
She's, well, everybody's taller.
I saw her on Zoom. I actually haven't met her in person.
Yeah, Kate. I have her number in my.
That's right. I still haven't met Dr. Producer Suzanne in person. So
that's crazy. But it's really fascinating to me that, and you just mentioned her name, and I go back to a conversation I had with her for 5 minutes at I was doing something and she was in the audience. And anyway, we had 5 minutes together as she was running home because she had to do something for her children or something, and a school project or something. And I just remembered saying to myself, I would back up a Brinks truck to have that woman run my hotel. There was something in that 5 minutes that, so not only, yes, there's got to be more flexibility, but we have to recognize when you have talent, man or woman, when you have talent in front of you, they will get the job done. Just let them get it done their way. Like, if you tell me to turn around the hotel, don't tell me how to turn it around. Just give me the keys and get out of my way. And if you don't think I'm going to do it, I'm probably not your guy. So I think that that's also something that we have to learn. We just got to let people do it their way and get out of their way, man or woman. And go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I was just gonna say, it's interesting. I do think that support is important, though, for women coming from companies. So I actually, during this month of March, I interviewed Jackie Gifford, who's the editor-in-chief of Travel and Leisure, and she brought up a really interesting point. She said, hotel companies are so amazing when it comes to our guests and their children and what they need and how to put together the best kids program and all that. Like, we need to turn that upon ourselves, and we need to turn that to our employees, and how to offer that as a benefit, whether that's partnering with, an outside company, or just even to have the backup, where, if whatever it is, if you have daycare, if you have a nanny, like that person isn't available, or the child gets sick, that I have some kind of a backup so that I can still do my job with the full focus. And I think companies will end up being more profitable because of it.
I just literally said this. I said this to not steal a John F. Kennedy quote, but a little bit. Don't ask what you can do for your guests. Ask what you can do for your employees. I've felt that way my whole life. I don't care about my guests. And people always get shocked when I say that. I don't care about them. Mm-hmm. I care about my employees. That's their job. And of course I love my guests, but if I don't care, if there's a young lady working for me and she doesn't have childcare, no matter what pamphlet I give her or what salary I give her, if she's not comfortable, she's not going to do a good job.
Yeah, I think that's the burden that women, they just approach it differently than men. But, it can happen. Here I am in London, we're near the Nordic countries where there is this, concept of paternity. Mm-hmm. And that it's, and not encouraged, I guess is the word, by the government, that men take paternity leave, and that women, women are always going to be the ones having the babies, but there can be more support, I think. And I think we will see that. But I think this is what we're doing right now. I'm really grateful to you, because I think it's having the conversations and making, everyone aware that this is the challenge, and that's how we get to change.
What about the fact that there are going to be certain people that you're not going to be able to change no matter what? What should we do about those people that refuse to admit it's 2022 and still think it's like 1822 or something like that?
You know what? I think that's a really tricky situation, but I also think that these things kind of take care of themselves. You know, people that don't have an open mind and they don't keep up with the times, that they become dinosaurs, and the world just moves on and they get left behind. So I think it can just kind of happen naturally.
I think that is perfectly said.
Yeah, I totally agree with that as well.
You know,
All
Glenn,
right,
if you look at it, you know, the reason
Mhm.
you asked me to be your partner on this is because you weren't up with the times. Now that you're with me, you're cool and hip, and people kind of give you
Thank
attention,
God.
right?
That's all I have to say.
So no, but I think that is exactly right. It's like, don't focus, you know, I always say don't focus, you know, on your bad quality, focus on your good quality and just really do a great job at your good quality. You know, pay attention a little bit, but like really double down on it. And same thing, it's like, don't, like, listen, you're just going to waste your time on those people and you're not going to change. Like, now, again, when you have an opportunity to influence them, fine. But at the end of the day, time is going to take care of them.
Yeah, I think you're seeing shifts. I mean, you know, we're seeing women doing some interesting things in different areas of hotel management. You know, a couple of the areas that I think are starting to change that have traditionally been male dominated is, you know, in the kitchens, there's been a very masculine culture, and now you're seeing head chefs, you're seeing sommeliers. So I think that it's happening bit by bit in different departments.
Yep.
And I think women are open to new ideas and new areas.
There was a young lady, I won't mention her name because she still may be in the business. I haven't spoken to her in about 10 years. And she was the best director of housekeeping in the country. And she ran every five-star hotel housekeeping department in New York City. And I said, when are you going to become a general manager? And she laughed at me. She laughed at me. She goes, they'll never give me that job. I go, who's they? They won't give me the job. I've applied for more general manager jobs, Anthony, than you've ever had in your life, and I never got one. And she was probably, arguably, one of the most talented human beings I've ever worked with. It's emotional just to even think about that. And even though I was sensitive to her, it's taken me to literally saying it out loud to actually get emotional about it, that I didn't realize what she was going through. Like, she took it like that, and then I took it like, that's terrible. But then I moved on.
Right.
Like, I didn't really feel that moment until now, actually.
It's interesting because one of the things that that I read about or, you know, think about is that they say women have a lot of mentorship now, but they don't have sponsorship. So you do need to find those allies as a woman, I think, that will put you up for that next job, to make sure that when they're going to look for a general manager, that they think about you, even if you've not done that before. In fact, today I just put out a story about the woman who runs, and I think it's called the Mountain Lake Lodge, and it's where they shot the movie Dirty Dancing,
Heidi
for any
Stone.
fans.
What's the name of it, Mr.
Heidi Stone.
Mensa?
Heidi Stone. And so she was saying that she was the director of sales for this property. They were trying to do a turnaround. The GM walked out after 6 months or whatever to take a different job, and she went for that job. And they were like, "No, you're not ready. You're not ready." And finally, she said, after they interviewed like 400 people, one of the people on the board that was making the decision said, "Well, give, you know, Heidi a chance."
Mhm.
And now she's totally turned the property around, and you know, so it's just like a combination of people not seeing you, I think, not, you know, and then once women get that chance, they really go for it. So
But you said something about sponsorship that I think is really important. And we're talking about women, but it's not just women. At a certain level in your career, we call it a rabbi, right? You have to have a rabbi. In the military, you have to have a rabbi. In any business, you have to have a rabbi. Even in TV business, you have to have a sponsor. So as you're getting mentorships, you have to have somebody that is willing to raise their hand for you. You know, once you become an NYPD, you become a captain. After that, if you don't have a rabbi somewhere in the department, you ain't getting promoted. And again, same thing in the hotel business. And I think, you know, one of the things that I always tell people that are listening, like, if you don't find out, you know, Emily's phone number or her email and call her for mentorship or sponsorship or get to know her or reach out to Glenn or reach out to me. Like, what are you doing? It's
Right.
like, I could sponsor a lot of people. Like, you can raise your hand and we can get to know each other. And I could probably, one phone call, change the direction of your career. And so can you, Emily, and so can you, Glenn.
Yeah.
And it's not because we're all powerful, but we know a lot more people than most people.
Right. And we've
And
been
I
around
love
long enough
Right.
to know that. That's a really great point that he's making there, Emily. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, I think it is true, and it's also, I think, cultivating those relationships, like you said, as the policemen do, but within your own organization, and getting people who are going to put you up for the promotion and get you considered for that.
But it's got to be more complicated if you're a property level person and you want to be an executive and you don't have the opportunity necessarily to mix and mingle with those people that are almost, it feels like, in a different industry and the property level.
Yeah, which is why what Peggy is doing with the Castell project is so wonderful, because she basically does these training programs where she gets, you know, low to mid-level managers and helps them learn the skills that they need to get to the next level. But because she takes women from all over the country, they get to know each other. They make their own networking group, and then, you know, so and so hears of a job somewhere, and then, you know, they help each other out. And that's, you know, what men have been doing for years.
Oh, for
and now
sure.
women are getting
right, like men on the golf course to a business trope, for example.
Yeah.
Right. It's that sort of thing. And I definitely had my group of guys that I came up with, that I became friends with and hung out with, and we help each other. And that's for sure. So everybody needs a community of people around them, for sure. Anthony, any more questions for the wonderful Emily?
You know, I just think about my own girls and them getting out of college, and, you know, they got their own jobs, but I kind of said, hey, look at that and look at that. And, you know, did a little to help them. And they just both got new jobs. And I didn't even know they were going for new jobs. And they got it themselves. And I was so proud of them. It's like, so you do need a little help. Everybody needs a little help, but you have to push. And again, whether you're, you know, if you're young coming out of college or older, it's okay to ask for help. You know, I'll use an example of someone.
You should ask for help.
It was a young man who we both know. He works for IHG. His name may be David. And we were in a conference the other day, and the president of his division or whatever was there. And I go, yeah, I just had dinner with him. And he goes, he knows I know you. And he goes, yeah, but he hasn't seen us together. He literally took me and said, come say hello. So I said hello, whatever. And he put us together that I know David and David knows him. And like he wanted to use whatever status I have with this guy to help him. And I loved it. I loved the fact that he made me do that. You know, he was a little pushy and I loved it. And, you know,
that's why Dave has gotten to where he is, because he has.
Right. And so
yeah, because he has.
And we need to make sure that everybody knows what you just said, Emily. It's not about mentorship only. It's about sponsorship. I think that's the best thing I've heard in a long time.
Thank you.
Awesome. I think that's probably a great place to end this conversation, since we're running out of time. Anyway, Emily, why don't you give us a good plug for Hertelier? Let us know how we could find it and how we could read more about incredible women in the hospitality industry.
Yeah, definitely find us at www.hertelier.com. And one other thing I would just mention is that I have a free newsletter that comes out every Sunday where I wrap up kind of the big industry news of the week, and also what kind of news is affecting women that were in the workplace, and with a kind of a feminine slant. Though we do have a lot of men that are readers.
40%.
And yeah.
So that's called the How do I get the newsletter? I'm sorry.
If you just come to the website, there's actually a pop-up that says, please sign up for our newsletter. Otherwise, you can scroll to the bottom, and there's a thing for a newsletter sign up there as well.
I am signing up for it right now.
Please sign up for it, or find me on LinkedIn, Emily Goldfisher. On LinkedIn, or Hertelier has its own page on LinkedIn and on Facebook and on Instagram. But on LinkedIn is where we're most active, and just look for Hertelier on LinkedIn.
Well, I just signed up for it, and I'm now hopefully going to get your newsletter.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I'm really so grateful to be here, especially on Women's History Month as your last Woman of the Month.
Just of this month, we promise to
Yes,
feature many great women throughout the year and not have
we do.
conversations about how they happen
And
to
talking about great women, can we please bring on Suzanne, our producer?
do we have
Before we
to?
end
Just
this?
kidding.
Talking about great women who push, Suzanne has done a lot for me in the last couple of years by just kind of making sure she gets to know me. And she not only runs a lot of things that I'm working on down in Florida, but her family and being a professor and a PhD and a hotelier. And so, Suzanne, you're a rock star.
Thank you.
Suzanne is, and she also has really helped me and has been a real advocate for Hertelier. She was the one that helped me connect with you to do this interview today. But Suzanne has helped me all along, and I'm just really grateful to Suzanne and all the many women who have helped build the site and the community around the site. So shout out to all the ladies.
And because of me, she upgraded from a shower curtain pineapple backdrop to a real pineapple backdrop because I mentioned it on air. But no, she's a rock star. Glenn, say something nice about Suzanne.
I was going to. Suzanne, I think you're absolutely fantastic and wonderful, not just on International Women's Day, but every day. How you manage to handle your career, your family, and all of that stuff is pretty inspiring. I know you have a lot of responsibilities on your shoulder, and it's amazing how you come to this every day with such a positive attitude. When I've got a good life going on over here and I'm crabby as F all the time, I don't know how you managed to say so positive.
I'm going to share a little personal story. I had a little thing about 3 weeks ago, a personal thing that almost took me out. I had a panic attack about it. It was a family personal thing. And Suzanne's had something recently in her family, and she always came and you never knew anything was going on. With me, all three, like you all knew immediately for a week, like, Anthony, are you okay? Like, and I wasn't okay. And like that you're able to handle yourself the way you do is an inspiration to me.
Oh, well, thank you. You just got to continue to charge forward with no matter what goes on. Just that's the way you got to move.
Yeah. And all those dinners and drinks that you have with Glenn in person, what have you learned? It's amazing you guys never met in person. That's
insane.
Like,
no, we haven't. And even Emily and I, it was a little over a year ago, we connected. And actually another person, another Emily yesterday, she had a really good analogy. And she's like, I kind of think you're like this crime scene person that you have pictures in your office and the yarn and it connects all the dots to everybody. And I'm like, oh my goodness, that's like such an awesome analogy. And that's what I love to be able to do is to help people.
Yeah, I think that might be true and a little scary.
It is.
But Emily, please, as you come across anyone that you think would be great for our show or anybody you want to make sure that we pump up, please every day send us somebody because we're always looking for tremendous talent.
I definitely will. I definitely will send you. And thank you again for having me on. And one other thing, I just want to shout out to another column that we have every week. It is called Unpack It with Nancy. And that's Nancy Mendelsohn has really helped me tremendously with the website. And all along we worked together at Lowe's and she's really been a major force of Hertelier. And she writes a great kind of they call it an agony aunt type column, but it's workplace issues. And she does a great job offering advice and just unpacking different issues.
And one question I didn't ask that I want to ask before we end. Are you seeing women from other disciplines come over, not just a hotel, but other businesses?
Yeah, I mean, our traction is quite good online. I mean, we're growing our readership every month. And we have people that have written in. You can actually write into Nancy. And again, you can find her through LinkedIn, Nancy Mendelsohn, to ask her any questions that you have with business or life. And we have seen people from other industries ask her questions.
Like Dear Abby.
It's exactly like a Dear Abby. In England, they call that an agony aunt. I don't know why, but yes, it's a Dear Abby column for the workplace.
Now, is that a green screen or is that your living room?
Me?
Yes.
That's my office. Yeah. Those are my kids back there. Should I go and?
I thought so, but I didn't want to. Those are my colors. I love the colors of that. Can I just come hang out with you and have a glass of wine?
Thank you. Yeah, that's my actual office.
That's a great pitch.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Emily,
Thank you.
thank you so much. Really appreciate you.
Thanks
Have a
for
good
having
one.
me.
Yep.
Bye.
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 All right. So,
Funny, I
guys,
really thought that was for green screen.
what a good week. So next week, guys, on Monday, we have Leonard Goose. He's the global brand head of Home 2 Suites. Then we're doing a show with Delos, focused on wellness. We got Vimal Patel, the president of CEO Q Hotels, coming up next week as well. He owns 9 hotels, and he's going to talk to us, Anthony, a lot about the challenges that hoteliers are facing when it comes to taxes, issues getting supplies, all this stuff that small hotel companies really are focused on. But the cool thing is, next Wednesday, we've got another amazing woman on the show, Captain Kugosomo Fatisma, founder of Dare to Dream out of Botswana. And she is focused on young airline pilots and aviation, and ambassador of youth aviation. That should be really cool interview as well.
That is fantastic, my friend.
Yeah. I think so too. All right, everybody.
Glenn, we're forgetting to do something that I really. Oh, by the way, I want to mention you just said something. Small hotels, independent hotels, have problems with supply chain and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
Check out Curator at Pebblebrook. It's not a paid advertisement.
Yeah.
If I had like 4 or 5, 6 hotels or one hotel, and I wasn't a member of Curator from Pebblebrook, I would be losing my mind, because they solve a lot of those problems for you. So
that's funny you should say that. Emily brought up Jennifer Barnwell, who runs Curator, just before we went on air.
Right. And so Curator is doing great things for independent hotels. And I also wanted to say something else. Oh yeah. You and I have failed.
Okay.
What were we supposed to do once a week?
I don't remember. What are we supposed to do?
We're supposed to just me and you, no guests.
Oh yeah, Dave keeps booking. Yes, I'm blaming it on Dave.
We need to do just me and you once a week.
I know, we really need to. This is really silly. All right, let's try.
I love our guests, but like I want to hear your thoughts about life sometimes, and I want you to hear my thoughts, and I want to take questions from our audience, and I think we have a little wisdom that we should provide.
I agree with you wholeheartedly. You know what else I think everyone can agree with me on, and that's get the audio version of our podcast. Listen on Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Stitcher. Gosh darn it, wherever you get your audio versions, listen to us there. And guys, if you're listening on the audio version, why not watch us on video? Anthony is a strikingly handsome man. Why not watch him every day here, Monday through Thursday at noon, on your favorite channels on the internet? Reach out to us. He's at Anthony Hotels. I'm at Traveling Glenn.
I just signed up for Hertelier newsletter, and I immediately got an advertisement from Amazon for good night stories for rebel girls.
Really?
Yep. Isn't that amazing?
And creepy, both at the same time. Right.
And I think that's fantastic.
All right, let's wrap up this for the week. I will see you here tomorrow at 5 p.m. East Coast time for another exciting edition of Friday Night Audit with my co-host Craig Sullivan, producer Dave, and as our special guest Calvin Toloki. All right, everybody, remember, you've got one life, so blaze on and
be kind to yourself.
See you all next week.